And we are live on the Pirate Broadcast, and it's a wonderful day. And we're getting close to wrapping up 2019, going into a new decade, a new time. And this is your opportunity to change, adapt, and overcome the odds. And today we're going to be talking about Oleg and his story and how he ended up here. Well, he's not here because he's in Austin, Texas. And we're connected on LinkedIn. And if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, leave some comments. Love to engage with you, and thank you, all the gratitude in the world for you being here. You know, you can always follow us at Russ Johns. And Oleg, good morning. Thank you so much for being here today. And how are you and what's happening today?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on the show to begin with. I'm doing well. Like I said before, like you said before, I'm in Austin, Texas right now for a couple more hours before I depart to Orlando to go celebrate Christmas and all the other holidays with my family there. But it's been a very phenomenal journey to get to this point. So I love this opportunity to be able to dive more into it and be able to understand it from possibly a lens that I haven't seen it before. And so I really appreciate platforms like yours that give us the opportunity and the space to do so.
Well, it's really interesting because I know a little bit about your story, and we've talked
Mm-hmm.
before. And
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that I want to really leave with the audience, the whole point of the Pirate Broadcast is interviewing interesting people doing interesting things. And,
Mm-hmm.
we all have our challenges. We all have some of the things that we need to work through and, discover in our lives. And, part of our life is discovering who we are and what we need to be and what our gifts are to the rest of the world. And I think that the individuals like yourself that have to go through trials and tribulations, change and challenges, it really helps define what you know and enjoy and what you want to move away from.
Mm-hmm.
So you're either moving to something or you're moving away from something. And talk a little bit about those that don't know you, how you have, moved away from something and where you're headed to.
Mm-hmm. It's a great point that you bring up as far as moving away and moving to something. So for those that are not familiar with my story, is that I was born in a foreign country, as you might have been able to tell by the first name. I was born in Russia and had lived there for my first 12 years of my life. It was during those 12 years that I had experienced very different set of events when it came to really just being brought up in a family that I didn't really have a mother from my very young age. And what I mean by that is my mom was an alcoholic. And so when you are faced with a obstacle like that, what it forced me to do as a child was really figure out, well, where do I get that caring and everything that a mom provides? Who else do I look up to? Where do I get those elements when I really needed them the most as a
Yeah.
young child? And so the reason why I choose to share that story is exactly like you said. It is to paint a picture of where I was. But ultimately, what I want for anyone to take away from this particular episode is where I'm going and where they could go. Because like you said, we've all experienced difficult circumstances within our lives. But I think what's important to understand is that our past doesn't have to define our present, and it doesn't have to define our future. We do have a choice as far as when it comes to the direction that we take within our own lives.
Yeah.
And the choices that we make ultimately shape any of those plans, any of those visions that we have. So for me, being adopted, this is fast forward to when I was 12 years old and coming here to the States in 2005, not speaking any English or barely enough, maybe knowing just a handful of words to communicate through. And the rest was dependent on my ability to communicate through a paper dictionary. So
Right.
there were a lot of challenges that I had to overcome. But if there was anything that I've learned along this journey, it is that if you truly set your mind to it, you can achieve anything it is that you envision. And I don't think my case is any different. I think that the choices that I made along the way in order to help me reframe and reshape the way that I view a lot of these events and choose to view them have really helped me tremendously as far as developing this mindset of an individual who believed in himself and who developed drive and persistence over time to
Mhm.
get through whatever the obstacle may be in front of me.
Well, it's interesting because yeah, it's every day is a gift is the way I
Mhm.
look at it. And you have a choice when you get up in the day and you start moving around and you discover, okay, am I where I want to be and what changes can I take, part of in my
Mhm.
own direction? How can I be responsible for my own actions today to make my future a little better than what I want? Or
Mhm.
what I need or what I
Mhm.
have, and so it's really important for people to understand that it's like, yeah, it it really was not a nurturing, kind environment that you were in, and even though that was the truth and that was the circumstance at that point in time, that did not define or limit who you're becoming in the future.
Mhm.
And I just wanna
Mhm.
make sure that people understand that if you're stuck, if you're in the middle of something where it's really difficult, I just I want you to realize that just like Oleg, there's a way and a method you can move forward, and it has to come from a mindset.
Mhm.
Oleg. And
Mhm.
what was the mindset that you had to develop, and what have you crafted in terms of habits or systems or thought processes that allow you to continue to grow and evolve?
Mhm. Well, I think one of the first things that has helped me and continues to help me is my belief in myself.
Mhm.
I firmly believe that I have whatever it takes at any given moment, even at moments where I don't have the information available to me to make whatever possible decision. I've just believed in myself deep enough, and I've also understood that the path to achieving whatever it is that I envision simply begins with a start.
Uh-huh.
I don't need to know the how. I don't need to know all the steps. I just need to know where to start.
Yeah.
And most times, it is a slightly different journey from what you envision in your mind as far as accomplishing
I
whatever
think
problem
it's
that you
always
have.
a different
It
journey.
is always different. Exactly. But as long as you understand that all you have to do is just start,
Yeah.
and then that you figure out the how as you go. And that's really what helped me as part of this journey of quote unquote overcoming odds is just understanding that you already have what it takes. You have all the tools. You have the inner belief within you that helped you get through whatever challenges. And then the other part that I've learned that has had a huge impact on me as
Uh-huh.
far as a habit is being able to take a step back and reflect upon some of the other challenges
How
and
so?
continue to remind myself that I've experienced challenges before and yet I'm
Mm.
still here. I'm
So
still
looking at
here.
the challenges in a historical way,
Exactly.
like I
Exactly.
this is another circumstance almost like that other circumstance, and I
Mhm.
made it through that,
Mhm.
so I can make it through this.
Mhm. Yeah, and just constantly reminding myself that there was a quote that I read a long time ago. I don't remember exactly who said it, but it said something along the lines of, "All of the obstacles and challenges are temporary, and
Yeah.
that there is always a rainbow at the end of a storm." And that's the one thing that always carries me is that there's always a rainbow at the end of every storm that you face.
Well, and I think more now than ever before in the history of humanity is that we right now is temporary.
Mhm.
Wherever you are at this moment in time, good, bad, or indifferent, it's temporary.
Mhm.
And we have a responsibility to ourselves and those around us to continue to improve, learn, understand what we can do and accomplish with others. And I'm always in the positive kind of mood and, moving things forward because I don't know, my life just seems to be a little better when I'm in a positive mood rather than a
Mhm.
negative mood, and always, you know, and it seems to move easier. Things seems to flow easier. Has that been your experience? I mean, it's really difficult, you know, in life, growing up, especially as a young child and not having the nurturing and caring and loving environment. Is that something that you've adopted and learned now and are a more positive person, or
Hmm.
how's that impacted you today?
I definitely have adapted into that mindset and into that being ultimately. The thing that you mentioned, which is very interesting, and it is exactly how I operate within my daily life, is that I firmly believe everything's based on energy.
Yeah.
So I will wake up and I'm just like any other human being. I experience all the emotions that all of us do. And
Yeah.
I'll wake up and, for example, some mornings the my dog Caleb, he may not be behaving the way that I envision him to behave. And so I'll say, Caleb, go to your bed or go to your room. But then I literally just begin to stop myself within the past year or so
Uh-huh.
and tell myself that, okay, if I start off with this energy, I
Yeah.
know that this energy is going to carry elsewhere. So
And
an
travel.
interaction that I may have with someone 3 hours later,
Yeah.
I may be giving off that energy. So I stop and recognize that that's the energy that I'm communicating from and immediately try to flip it. And
Uh-huh.
so I complement that with positive things. So I'll actually bring the dog back out, pet him, give him a bone, fill it up with peanut butter and, just show him caring and love and kindness
Uh-huh.
because I understand that it is all about energy. And so it is a choice to live in that. And I think oftentimes maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I didn't really understand this concept. People would say, "Oh, just be positive," and I said, "BS." Like, what does that actually do, you know? But
Yeah.
then I
Make it
started to live it and embrace it, and that's where I understood that being positive, it actually plays a huge role in your life because it translates into everything, every
well, I think
interaction you have, and even the things that you do
uh-huh.
without another person it still impacts you how you view them and how you choose to go through your day and accomplish some of the tasks that you have.
Well, there's a ripple effect too. And one of the practices that I have every day is, I type the word gratitude. I just and I kind of think about, okay, what am I grateful for today? How can I how can I improve my day, improve my outcome, and who can I help and how can I help them?
Mhm.
And bringing value into the gratitude that you have for the day. I mean, it's like, hey, I woke up, gratitude,
Huh.
right? I mean, and it's realistically, we're here for a very short period in terms of humanity and the world and the planet and the universe. And if we approach it in a more positive way, just I don't know, for me, and this is just my experiences,
Mhm.
that it just my days just make my life so much easier. I mean,
Yeah.
it just flows, things are easier. It seems like I'm in a better mood, and it just out of that decision when you wake up in the morning and decide to make it a good day.
Yeah, and that's I think it's important for me as well because one of the things that I've learned, so not to disclose my age, but I think I have to at this point. I'm 26 years old, and what I've learned is that as I matured, the days literally fly by. And the older you grow, the faster they go.
Oh,
At least
trust me, I
it
know that.
appears in my mind. So the other day, I remember I woke up and I went through my routine of getting things accomplished and talking to people. And next thing I know, I look at my phone and it's 5:30. And I
Yeah,
thought to myself, where did the past 9 hours just go?
yeah,
And so as part of that realization, what it made me also realize is that if that's how fast the days go, then I might as well be positive and be grateful for
yeah,
the opportunity to do the things that I do.
yeah,
Because we also have to realize this that when it comes to gratitude, I remember when I first started this journey of writing thank you notes to at least one person in my life that has had an impact on me. At first, it was relatively easy because I could pinpoint 5 or 6 things that I was grateful for.
uh-huh,
But then it became a lot more challenging. It was almost as if I was running out of things to be grateful for. And then I started to look at the small things in life,
yeah,
ability to breathe, walk, talk, listen to a conversation.
yeah,
And immediately, it was almost immediately when I began to think of those thoughts. I remember I got back, I think it was on LinkedIn, and one of the first posts I saw was a person who didn't have any legs, and he was sharing his story, and then I was like, boom. It's all of these things that I quote unquote took for granted because I'm so familiar with them. We go through the daily routine. I mean, even the ability to get out of bed on your own in the morning
Yeah.
is something to be grateful for because
And
not
not
everyone can
everybody
do
has
that.
it, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Not everyone has that ability to do. And so just taking a step back and accepting that those are the things to be grateful for, it plays a huge role within my life.
It's a huge opportunity to actually live a full life, and it's not as much about the destination as about the journey. And I think it's really important for us to enjoy the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Let's understand and appreciate if something happens that is not always a positive experience. What's the lesson we can learn from that? How can
Yes.
we adjust our perspective and our intent in going on in the future? I want to
Mm-hmm.
shift gears a little bit here, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, I want to thank you so much. Vicky's here, Wendy, Lewis, Angie, Jeff, Sherry, Carol. All of these individuals are joining in, and thank you. Mindset, Jeff Young. I get some of the confidence from my great network. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate, love you, man. And all, Angie, you are awesome, amazing individual. Oleg is amazing. Wendy, Gahula, thank you so much for being here. Vicky O'Neill, mindset is number one priority. Having support and keep our mindset positive for focused is a close number two.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, I think that it's really important for us to understand that we can change, we can be responsible for what we're doing and actions we're taking. And I know that Angie and I have had this conversation in the past. Is sometimes our own beliefs are the ones that are limiting us compared to others outside of our goals.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two sides. People perceive us differently than we perceive ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and has that been an impact in you? Is building confidence and practicing confidence and knowing that you have achieved great things and there are more things that you can achieve?
Mm-hmm.
How do you frame that in your mind, in your mindset going forward?
I'm sure it has as far as the impact that you mentioned. And I love the phrase that you also mentioned of practicing confidence. That's what it is. I
It's
think,
just practice.
yeah, I think we're born with an element of it.
Uh-huh.
It's almost like a toy to play with. And then from there, you have to reshape it into a car or whatever it is that you want. So for me, it definitely has impacted my mindset. But what I've also learned is this: when it comes to perception, obviously you have a different perception of who you are,
Uh-huh.
and the people around you have a different perception of who you are. And the cool and the interesting part about it is that every single person has a different perception. So you ask two people about what do you think of myself, they're all going to give you different answers based on what they choose to see within you.
It's based on their experience of where you are in their
Exactly.
life. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think for me, what I've begun to learn and understand is really choosing to embrace myself for who I am. And that is learning to get comfortable within my skin, learning to be comfortable with my decisions,
Uh-huh.
and not, I guess, one of the things that I'm working on more so is really choosing to embrace decisions for decisions, not choosing to look at decisions as far as good and bad, but rather just telling myself that it just is. I
Yeah.
made this decision and I'm learning to live with the consequences of it. Because in the
Being
past,
responsible.
exactly. In the
Yeah.
past, when I looked at it from good or bad, I also noticed the impact that it has on everything. Your self-image, your self-esteem.
Yeah.
When I tell myself I made a bad decision, it impacts everything, not to mention it impacts a similar situation where I have to make a similar decision down the road.
Yeah.
I don't end up making it because I'm not confident in myself. I'm confident in the fact that it's going to turn out into a quote unquote bad decision over again. So, really just choosing to embrace myself for who I am. And as part of that journey, understanding that those that are meant to be in your life will stay
Yeah.
in your life. And those that you're meant to attract, you will attract. But you
And
have
I
to
think
live
that is
from your
such a
own
great
truth.
that is such a great point. Is that when you can remove everything from the ego, the shame, the guilt, all those emotions that provide no value, and you
Mhm,
just be yourself, you'll attract the people that enjoy who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it. I mean,
mhm,
it's just natural. I want to shift gears here, Oleg, and
mhm,
I want to talk about what you're doing with your um, Against All Odds.
mhm,
It's a foundation. It's a nonprofit that I understand.
mhm,
Dig into that so people have an understanding of who you're helping and how that process works. I want to make
mhm.
sure that we capture that for you before we wrap up the show today and people walk away and say, well, that was a great conversation. What does he do?
I
You know,
appreciate
let's
yeah, no, I
plant that
appreciate
seed so people can find you and discover who you are.
I appreciate that opportunity to share on what we do. The organization is called Overcoming Odds.
Uh-huh.
And what it is essentially a space for people to be able to share their stories and embrace their own journeys along whatever chapter or path there are within their lives. And so part of our work, what we do is we actually we have an online space where people are able to share their experiences of going through the different challenges or those that are currently working through them.
Uh-huh.
What I've learned is that based on my own experience of having lived this life, is that there are very few instances in life where I am able to truly express what I might be going through. When I think of the daily encounters that I have, I go into a grocery store or Starbucks and everything is so fast paced. I
Mm.
always make a joke where I walk into a Starbucks and when I place the order, and almost immediately order for Oleg. It's as if they knew I was gonna come in at a particular minute of the day and order that latte.
Yeah.
And so, for me, what I've learned is that these spaces like these are absolutely necessary because there aren't many other opportunities, maybe besides your family, that
Mhm.
you can really talk about, like, what are you going through and how
Yeah.
are you working through it? How are you thinking through it? So we started to create this space, and as part of it, what we've also learned is that it's great to have this online space where people can share their stories and embrace their own experiences. But
Mhm.
we've also learned that there's an element of human connection that needs to happen.
Yeah.
And so what we started to do is we actually started to host these in-person events around the country, and we started to recently just opened up Zoom conversations where people can join in. It's free of charge, and each week we have a topic that we focus on. So last week, the topic that we had was called the art of listening, and
Mm.
really understanding what it means to be an active listener and not just say things for the sake of saying them as a response, but rather listening for meaning and identifying what it means to you and how it's applicable to your life or the way that you choose to see the world.
Mhm.
So that's really what the work is about. And for anyone that's interested, please go ahead and either connect with me through LinkedIn or any of the platforms, or you could find us through overcomingodds.today, where you'll be able to see the different ways you can get engaged and connected to this community and this mission to begin with.
And it's overcoming odds dot today.
Correct.
And in the ticker below, you can see that and understand that that's where you can connect with Oleg. And also on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
LinkedIn is here, and he's on. It's not. There's. I mean, I know people know Oleg, and this is this this is a new adventure, a new understanding, and I love the idea of listening because you know, too many people listen to respond and not to understand.
Hmm.
And when you listen to understand, the connection that we all have is much stronger, much more influential. It's much deeper. And I
Hmm.
think it's really important for people to understand that and really connect with individuals. Because I mean, just on LinkedIn Live, just the pirate broadcast and some of the connections that I've made around the world as a result of being on LinkedIn, it's incredibly powerful. And I know that if I visit different cities and countries, I have connections there. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, when you start thinking about the magnitude of how that can change lives, it's very important for us to understand that, we're not alone. This experience we're having, somebody else has had this experience in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that we communicate with each other and we listen to other stories and we understand how we can respond and react and feel about things, is that and goes back to what you were saying, when you're responsible for your actions and you take control of your life and decide what you want to do, be, or feel,
Mm-hmm.
your life is, you have control over your life. You have control over what you're doing and what's taking place. And I think that's important for people to understand, that they have the ability to do that. Because
Absolutely.
a lot of people do not feel that they have the authority or the ability or the opportunity to feel different than them where they are right now.
Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing that you mentioned that's interesting to point out is that all of our stories are truly unique. And
Hmm.
I think there's a time where some of us have lost that. We started to look at all of our journeys as if it's just, I'm just an electrician just like anyone else, or a
Yeah.
plumber, or whoever it is.
Yeah.
But really think about it. The path that you took within this life and the path that you are continuing to pay for yourself is completely different from any other individual on this planet.
Yeah.
And so embracing your own uniqueness and the things that you are most proud of about yourself, that's what makes you human, connecting to who you really are. And in turn, what you're doing is you're also creating a space for me to connect to who I really am. And that's where I think when we talk about these meaningful connections and relationships,
Hmm.
that's where they happen, because then it becomes all heart to heart connection
Yeah.
and not just us connecting based on the job title or different things that we have. Although they may be expressions of who we are. Some of us truly do love what we do. But at the same time, what I want people to understand is that the things that you may be doing, it's just one element of it.
Yeah.
It's not the ultimate thing that defines who you are as an individual.
Yeah. What you do is not who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important because there's a lot of people, especially of my vintage, that worked a long time in a company, an organization, and it becomes almost their identity.
Mm-hmm.
And when that thing ends, they lose their identity. They lose a piece of their identity. And I think we have to start thinking about life as experiences. A
Yes.
lot of experiences that we have. We are the accumulation of our experience. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, you know, every individual has a unique experience in their journey through life. And that's why it's so important for me to, connect with individuals like you,
Mm-hmm.
share these stories on Pirate Broadcast, understand that, everyone has an interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is an interesting individual. If you take the time, like you said, active listening and learning about something that they're doing that is unique and individual, that's that can help someone else. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a connection to a reality that you may not necessarily see in other platforms. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
And everyone has, when we spoke earlier about the whole journey and not really focusing on destination, I firmly believe that there's no destination. I think the journey is the destination.
the journey is
It's
the
it's being
destination.
able to experience it day to day. And so as part of it, just recognizing that for myself, what I'm also understanding is that everything can be shaped with a similar mindset.
Yeah,
When we think about success, there's no place, there's no time that you're gonna wake up and you're gonna tell yourself, this is it.
yeah,
It's over time that I think you can make conscious choices to tell yourself, today I choose to be successful because A, I woke up, I made my bed, I made myself breakfast, and I fed my dog.
yeah,
Those are some of the things, those are the only things that I accomplished prior to this particular interview. But for me, that's what it is that you have a choice in how you choose to live your life
yeah,
and how you choose to view yourself along the journey. So thinking that there's going to be that one magical moment or that one day, I think
yeah.
just reframe it and tell yourself that that day is today, that moment is now.
The only moment that we have is right now. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's really important for us to understand that, happiness is not a destination. It's just it's who we decide we want to be today, right now.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Kathy, Arcot, uh, Lori. Good morning, Vicky, everyone that's joined in, Sherry, Angie, Jeff, all of the individuals that are here, Vicky, Lewis, all the gratitude in the world. I love that you're here, and I thank you for the opportunity to share Oleg's story with you, some of the thoughts that we're having and the conversations that take place on the Pirate broadcast. As you know, I'm always open to conversation, and I love engaging with individuals that are doing something powerful. Connect with Oleg at overcomingodds.today. Now,
Mm-hmm.
do you have any other events coming up, Oleg, in the near future after the first of the year? Or?
We'll have a full schedule released for 2020. We're going to do 4 to 6 events in 4 to 6 different cities. Some of the cities will include like Atlanta, Georgia, East
Mhm.
Lansing, Michigan, Austin, Texas, San Diego. What's unique about each one of the events is that they focus on different themes and
Uh-huh.
elements of our story. So, for example, we've had events that in the past that focused on resilience or
Mhm.
developing courage or embracing your own individual identity. So the cool thing for me as we go into all of these is that these are all the elements that we already have.
Yeah.
We already have it within us. We already have elements of courage. We
It's
already
almost
have
like a light
elements of
switch, though.
resilience.
We have to understand how to turn it on, right?
Yes.
Activate it. How do we activate confidence? Well, you
Mhm.
you practice it.
Mhm.
You practice, you get
You do more
started
of
and
it.
you go do
Mhm.
something,
Mhm.
and then you have enough feedback where you can actually gain some more confidence, right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Action is everything. And the one last thing that I've learned, among many other things throughout life, is that this phrase, knowledge is power. What
uh,
I firmly believe is knowledge with action is power.
yes,
Knowing something, but not being able to apply it to your own life and how you think about it almost has no impact on how you
yeah,
choose to view the world. But knowing it and then choosing a set of actions that you can take with it and choices is everything. I mean, that's all what ultimately defines us and helps us become the beings that we are when we look back at all the accomplishments and things that we have within our lives, is understanding that we had this information within our hand, and we all do. And so to summarize all of this is
uh-huh,
that we all have the ability to change. We all have the ability to adapt. And the reason why is because we're doing it already on a daily basis.
yeah. Well, I thank you so much, Oleg, for being here, sharing your story, introducing us to overcoming odds today. And I just really want to thank everyone that joined in the live. If you're watching the replay or you've watched this later on, thank you, all the gratitude in the world. Type in replay. Please follow the Pirate Broadcast on LinkedIn, hashtag Pirate Broadcast. Connect with the blog post, the podcast, the transcription on russjohns.com/pirate broadcast. All the social media, like, share, comment, all of that good stuff. I just really appreciate the fact that we can do this. We're in a place in the time we are right now, and I just applaud you for your efforts, Oleg, and thank you so much for being here today. And any last words or any profound thoughts you want to leave with us today?
Well, the one thing that I would like to leave with us is that never say you can't do something in life. There's always a way as long as there's a will. And so, whatever the obstacle it is that you're experiencing, whatever the challenge may be, know that you have what it takes to overcome it. So, no matter how difficult it may seem, whatever the event may be, you've done it before through other events, through other experiences. So, know you have what it takes and continue to remind yourself that you can achieve whatever it is that you envision.
Absolutely. Thank you. Kindness is cool. Smiles are free. And you enjoy the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.